Let me ask you about the role of business in the geopolitical sphere. You do a lot of business in China. There's a report that you were going to underwrite the Xi'an IPO.
Yep.
You do business with ByteDance,
yep.
Which happens to be the owner of TikTok, a business that a lot of people think is fundamentally a national security threat to the United States. How do you justify that?
I was in China, and of course, there's people afraid about you being pro-China and stuff like that. And I said, the Chinese know one thing about me. I'm red-blooded, full-throated, free market, pro-capitalist, pro-American. And I salute what the American government does, and we're talking to them all the time about what is the right way to deal with national security. It's not Xi'an. That isn't the issue about national security. But, when the government comes up with what they want to do, I'm going to salute, and that's what JPMorgan is going to do. But in the meantime, it's a very complicated subject. So every nation has national security interests. Ours is semiconductors and maybe some data. But, for Europe, it's energy. They are completely reliant on outside parties for their energy. Even for China, they import, I think, 9 or 10 million barrels of oil a day. So every country is going to be looking at its own national security interests, and so the complexity of China will work that. We want to be we want to be at the table and help figure out. And I think the government is talking about the right way: narrow garden, high walls, semiconductors. 100% of our penicillin, 100% of our pharmaceutical parts come from there. Obviously, we should fix that.
So, is there any part of you that says, for example, doing business with ByteDance, with TikTok? We're going to have Kevin McCarthy on. He's not a fan, as you know, of TikTok. There are a number of states that are trying to ban TikTok.
I'm not going to go through it here, and I'm not going to talk about clients. You can imagine the due diligence and work we do to figure out what the truth is about those things. If some of those people are doing things that we think are truly bad, we would not bank them. And, of course, the American government will have a point of view in that, and we'll engage in those conversations, too.
Let me ask you about...
But I also think engagement is good. I'm not afraid of China. Okay, we have all the food, war, and energy. We have the Atlantic and the Pacific. We have not pissed off our neighbors. We've got a great relationship with Mexico and Canada. They have a very complex neighborhood. They've done a pretty good job angering all the people around them. Okay, and we're all remilitarizing: Japan, the Koreas, Philippines, Indonesia, Vietnam, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India. And whatever you think about Russia, they're not great friends. Like a mere 30 or 40 years ago, there were armies on both sides between Russia and China. And they have to import 10 million barrels of oil a day. They've got terrible demographics. So I'm not afraid of China. I think we should engage exactly the way the administration is doing it today. And I think it's good for an American bank to be there to help multinationals around the world and China with their own development if it makes sense. If for some reason the American government says, nope, can't do that anymore, then so be it.
Okay, but what is that risk?
I don't set foreign policy for the United States.
But what is that risk, and how do you think about that risk? And the reason I ask the question is we have a number of businesses. Today we're going to talk to Bob Iger. He's got a big business in China as well. And to the extent you think that the war in Ukraine could have been a dress rehearsal for what would happen if there was a takeover of Taiwan, maybe you don't think it's a dress rehearsal. But the reason I mention it is if, in fact, that were to happen, if you remember, most U.S. businesses left Russia. Now, they could do that economically. It was not the hardest thing to do. It would be much harder for American businesses, I imagine you, for a Disney, for an Apple, for a Nike, to leave China.
If the American government makes me leave China, I'm leaving China, okay? It doesn't matter what I think or don't think. But I think if there's a war in Taiwan, you can take all bets off. That will be a major depression, a major problem. America will be better off than China. And it would be really tough. No one thinks that's going to happen. It may happen. So as a risk manager, JPMorgan can handle that. But that would be really bad for the world and really bad for China, really bad for the people of China. So I don't think it's going to happen, but you can't say it won't. So you have to be prepared for it. But I think the best thing to do is to help the American government figure out what we need to do to protect our national security, protect our allies, keep the Western alliances together, and make it clear to people who are adversaries or potential adversaries what the cost to them will be of bad actions. That's what we should do.